Death never lost. Not once. Not to anyone. Not in all the centuries of doing what he does. Walking into the moment everything ends and making sure it ends. He didn't chase. He didn't rush. He just waited because he always knew, eventually, you run out of road. Eventually, everyone does. And then he met a cat who'd already died 8 times and was furious about the 9th. That's the setup most people walk into the last wish with. Puss in Boots, 1 life left, wish upon a star, go. Death is the obstacle, the villain, the big bad wolf standing in the way of the hero getting what he wants. But here's the thing, Death isn't the villain of this movie. He's the mirror, and what he's reflecting back at Puss, what he's reflecting back at us, is the one thing nobody wants to look at directly. Let's start at the beginning. Not the movie's beginning, the character's beginning. Death shows up in The Last Wish as a wolf. Big, scarred, whistling. 2 sickles he carries like they're nothing. He moves differently than every other character in this film. Loose, patient, almost playful. Not because he's underestimating Puss, because he genuinely doesn't need to rush. He's not trying to beat Puss, he's just waiting for Puss to stop running. The first time they meet, Puss nearly dies. Actually dies, 8th life, chest crushed. And he wakes up in a doctor's office getting the news. 1 life, 1. And his reaction is to immediately start planning how to get more. Find the wishing star, get the wish, problem solved. He's not scared, he's annoyed. Like someone who spilled coffee on their shirt and is already mentally calculating whether they have time to go home and change. And then Death appears in the alley. Watch that moment. Not the sickles, not the wolf. Watch Puss's eyes. That's the first time in this entire movie, maybe the first time in Puss's entire life that he actually feels it. Fear, real fear. Not this is dangerous fear, not I might get hurt fear. The I am going to die and there is nothing I can do about it fear. He runs. The easy read on Death in this movie is that he's just the final boss. The ultimate threat, a personification of stakes. He exists to make the audience feel the danger because Puss only has 1 life left, so every encounter with this wolf is supposed to feel heavy. Simple. But that's a surface reading, and it misses everything. Because Death doesn't show up when Puss is in the most danger. He doesn't appear during the bear triplets fight. He's not at Goldilocks' table. He's not standing at the entrance to the dark forest. He appears when Puss runs away. Think about that. Every time Puss chooses fear over facing something, Death is there. Not chasing him exactly, just present, like he's marking the choice. Like there's something about running from your life that summons the end of it. Here's what Death is actually doing in this film. And this is the thing most people miss. He's not trying to kill Puss. He's trying to get Puss to acknowledge him. There's a difference, a massive one. Death in folklore, in myth, in every story humans have ever told about this figure, Death is not personal. Death doesn't hold grudges. Death doesn't care who you are or what you've accomplished or how many songs have been written about your sword arm. But this Death, he's almost offended. Not angry, not malicious, offended. Like Puss has committed a specific disrespect by spending 8 lives like they were nothing, burning through them, throwing them away, treating each death as a minor inconvenience rather than what it actually was. Each one of those 8 lives was a gift, and Puss spent them like a guy burning through free trials, always confident he'd figure it out before the bill came due. Death has watched every single one. And what's underneath his patience, underneath that whistling and those sickles and the terrifying calm, is something that looks almost like, do you understand what you've been given? Do you have any idea what you keep throwing away? Okay, but here's where the movie gets genuinely strange and good. Death isn't wrong. That's the part that makes this character resonate in a way a normal villain never could. He isn't a monster, he isn't evil, he's not even cruel, he's just inevitable and correct. Puss has been reckless, Puss has been throwing his lives away, Puss has been running from the reality of his own mortality for so long that he genuinely doesn't know how to exist without the armor of invincibility. The Puss in Boots who shows up at the beginning of this movie doesn't value his life because he's never had to. He's been spectacular and beloved and feared and celebrated, and every time something ended him, he just came back. The danger was never real. The stakes were never real. And you can't love something you've never had to protect. Death understands this in a way Puss doesn't. Not because Death is wise or philosophical, because Death is the only one in this movie who is purely, completely honest. He doesn't want anything from Puss. He doesn't have an agenda beyond the one he's always had. He is exactly what he says he is, every single time. Did I frighten you, little cat? Yeah, and he was supposed to. That's the point. There's a moment in the final confrontation, and I want you to watch this carefully if you go back, where Death stops. Puss has made his choice. He's torn up the wish. He's choosing to live the one life he has instead of chasing more. And Death smiles. Not a villain loses smile. Not a fine, you win this round smile. A satisfied one. Like this was always what he was here for. Not to kill Puss, to make Puss choose. To force him into the moment where he either faces what's coming or keeps running forever. And finally, Puss stops running. Ooh, because Death wasn't the obstacle to Puss's wish. Death was the wish. Or at least, the thing that made the wish possible. You can't wish to truly live until you face the thing that makes life finite. You can't value the one life you have until something real is standing in front of you saying, this ends. It will end. The only question is whether you were present for it. We've all had a version of this. Not a wolf with sickles, obviously, but that moment when something made the abstraction real. The phone call, the test result, the relationship that ended and you realized you've been sleepwalking through it. The thing that made you stop and go, wait, this is actually happening. I am actually here. I do not have infinite time. Most of us ran, at first. Most of us do the Puss thing. Make a plan, find a workaround, keep moving, stay busy. Don't think about it too hard. Death in this movie is patient about that. He's seen it before. What makes Death one of the most interesting characters in recent animated film isn't the design, though the design is incredible, that watercolor violence. It's that he operates from a place of complete integrity the entire movie. Everyone else in The Last Wish is running from something or towards something. Goldilocks wants a family. Jack Horner wants everything. Puss wants more lives. Even Kitty and Perito are carrying their histories with them. Death wants nothing, needs nothing, has no wound, no backstory, no redemption arc. He simply is what he is. That's what makes Death unforgettable in this film. He's not the villain, he's the catalyst. He's the one character without an agenda who somehow drives every single choice the protagonist makes. He doesn't need to win, he doesn't need Puss to die, he just needs Puss to be honest. For once, for the first time, about what all of this actually means.
Did I frighten you, little cat?
Yeah, he did. And that's the whole movie right there. That's all of it. The fear is the point. The fear means you know something is real. The fear means you're finally, actually present. Don't run from the wolf. You've only got one life to use it.